Hi, how are you? In the last video, I used my webcam because I thought it would be better, but I'm currently using my iPhone right now, and I'm not sure why it decides to have like good quality footage when connected to my MacBook specifically. But let me know which one you prefer, if you care at all. Anyways, Maboroshi recently came out on Netflix. It is a 2024 film, and when I first saw the title card thing, I thought it was going to be a movie very similar to Kimi no Nawa, which I love that movie. It's so cute. One of my favorite movies. So I was really excited initially going into watching it, and then my excitement was manipulated, dragged, kidnapped, and never seen again. I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. I just think it's a little misunderstood. So I'm gonna take this video, I'll give you a quick rundown for those of you who haven't seen the movie or just don't want to, but I will be talking about my takeaways from the movie, what I think the point of it was, and so in a way I guess this is a theory video, because it's kind of hard to talk about a plot that you don't really understand. So I'll try to make this as simple as possible, but if at any point you're confused during my explanation, it's completely normal, and I guarantee you watching the movie will not make it any clearer. So the movie opens on a small town, and the steel factory blows up. I understand that steel has to be made, and so a steel factory has to exist somewhere, but it was the first time I'd ever heard those two words together. And of all things, steel. So when the steel factory blows up, it causes these giant cracks in the sky, and then these smoke dragons come from the steel factory and eat the cracks that are in the sky.
Huh?
And when the characters first see this smoke monster, one of them goes, It's a wolf. I'm sorry. It's a cloud with teeth that moves like this. It's a dragon. It's a dragon. It's a dragon. These cracks in the sky happen occasionally, and every time the smoke dragons eat the cracks from the sky and seemingly prevent their reality from breaking. So when the cracks in the sky happen and the steel factory blows up, time also freezes. So our main character, Masamune, has been 14 for years, and everyone has kind of stayed the same age since the steel factory blew up, however many years ago. Masamune hates this one girl named Mitsumi, who he actually loves, but we'll get to that in a minute. Mitsumi shows Masamune this girl that she's been taking care of. So this one girl just kind of showed up one day, and the weird thing about this girl, other than the fact that she acts like a wolf cub, is she ages unlike everyone else in the town. I also forgot to mention, no one can leave the town. I think the tunnel was blocked off somehow, I think. And so Masamune makes a comment that the town feels like a cage. He feels like he's trapped in a town that doesn't change due to time and stuff. And so that's a big thing in the first 3 minutes of the movie. So Masamune helps Mitsumi take care of this girl, and she seems like she's around 11-ish. Masamune names her Itsumi, and he starts to get closer to Itsumi, and eventually Itsume falls in love with him. We'll get to that in a minute. Masamune discovers that on the other side of the cracks is reality. So basically a world or timeline when time never stopped. I don't even know how to explain this movie. Masamune discovers that on the other side of the cracks in the sky is reality. So they've been living in a phantom world this whole time, and on the other side of the cracks is a timeline, basically, when time never stopped. So Masamune is older, along with Mitsumi, and they're together. Like a couple, I don't know if they're married, I can't remember. But in the reality, not the phantom world where they're 14, but in the reality, they have a daughter who is the one that kind of got spirited away into their phantom world where her parents are 14. Let me try this again.
In the reality on the other side of the cracks, they're older because time never stopped when the steel factory blew up. And so Masamune and Mitsumi are together and they have a daughter
who was spirited away into the phantom world where her parents are 14. So she's not from their reality. And so Masamune and Mitsumi decide to send her back to her reality where she came from. And so they put her on a train, and Mitsumi gives this really weird monologue. We'll get to that in a minute. And then Wolf Girl, Itami, goes back to her reality, and then the people in the phantom world just kind of live. It doesn't really say what happens to them, but they live, question mark. And so that was the movie, and that, mind you, is leaving out the people cracking and disappearing into the smoke dragons, and the crazy religious guy who thought that Wolf Girl was sent by the gods. It was a weird movie. So, from what I understand, which isn't much, their timeline split into the phantom world where they stayed 14 and everyone stayed the same age, and then one just kept going into a reality where the steel factory blew up and all the workers died in the steel factory, and that was it. So all of the workers that were in the steel factory when it blew up died in the reality. And so Masamune's dad is one of those workers. And so I think, going off of what the grandpa passingly said, that the gods wanted to preserve a time before the tragedy, and so they split the timeline in order to preserve that happiness that came before the steel factory blew up. But then it's kind of ironic because Masamune at the beginning of the movie said that he felt trapped, and no one is really happy in the world where they're supposed to preserve happiness. Do you know what I mean? Does this make any sense? I think the phantom world was supposed to be a metaphor for grief, because when you lose someone that's close to you, I'm talking about like reality, like our reality. When you lose someone that's close to you, you start to relive the moments before you lost them. And so I think the phantom world was kind of a representation of that, where you're kind of just living in the days where before you lost your loved one. But then as you're trying to keep being happy by reliving your happy days, you're also trapping yourself, and you can't grow as a person because grief is a cage. So now I get into the themes of the movie, and I use the word themes very loosely because they're all just kind of half-assed. The really big one that sticks out to you the most, that's probably the biggest one, is that love hurts. I'm not the fondest of this theme. From my personal experience, I don't like love that hurts. To each their own, but I feel like if you're with someone and you hurt, you should probably reflect on why that is before you go calling it love. Unrequited love, I understand why that hurts, but I wouldn't exactly take this theme to heart without first applying it to individual circumstances. And so I think the theme after that love hurts is probably like the purpose of life. When people found out that they lived in a phantom world, they all got pretty depressed because it was kind of like a life is meaningless and it doesn't matter. And Masamune and Mitsumi start to realize that life is worth living when you're with the person that you love, and that it's the emotions that come with your day by day that make you alive, not, the figment of physically being there. Which is a theme I can get behind. It reminded me a lot of the Free Guy theme when Buddy says, "Who cares if we're not real? This moment is real, and that's what really matters." And so I definitely get that. I get that. That makes sense. But that theme was a little bit convoluted in this movie because of the whole "I hurt, it hurts, it must be love" nonsense that every character was yapping about. And then there's a very subtle theme of grief. I think Masamune makes a side comment about how his self in his reality, although free from time, seems trapped in grief because of the loss of his daughter and his dad in the steel factory. That Masamune in the phantom world is free emotionally. And then there's the theme that I didn't quite pick up on, which was this whole conversation between Mitsumi and Wolf Girl / Itsumi. What I got from that scene on the train was Mitsumi told Itsumi that her love is only for Masamune and Masamune's love is only for Mitsumi, and that Itsumi, although loving both of them, there's no room for her in the love between them. She basically just said, "I know you're my daughter, but I only love my significant other, so no love for you," which is such a weird theme. And I think any version of that theme is still really weird. I've never seen that theme in a movie, so I'll give them points for creativity, but it's also never a theme I would have wanted to see in a movie. And this whole monologue feels like it was supposed to be this, climax, character arc, fulfillment moment, and it's just I was just disturbed. It was just disturbing. I was disturbed. And then the whole time, Itsumi's in a bridal gown, which just makes it so much weirder. So my immediate first impressions of this movie, was probably the pervertedness. I think within the first 20 minutes of the movie, there are 2 shots up 14-year-old Mitsumi's skirt, which isn't a lot, but it's kind of weird that it happened twice. And you could do the whole, well, she might be 14 now, but, they've been 14 for years, so technically, mentally, she's 20, which I didn't realize we were still doing those mental gymnastics in 2024. I personally like my movies without 14-year-old panties in them. Call me problematic.
I don't care if you think I'm Satan reincarnated.
And then there's this scene. Reminder, that is her father.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
It is so obviously a fetish insert, and they didn't do anything sexual. Gross. You're gross. That's gross. Disgusting. I never want to see it again. People look back on Back to the Future and think that that's problematic. This is a 2024 film. What was the point? What was the point of... I didn't immediately react to this scene when I first saw it because I think I was just in shock. But looking back on it, I have no words. It's perverted, it's pedophilic, and it's borderline incest, and I just... Call me problematic, but I'm not for that. And that pretty much wraps up my experience with this movie. I know it was kind of confusing, kind of a ride, that you didn't know you were on. I have recorded this footage 3 times. And listen. I think it was trying to be very deep and emotional and have like a serious message behind what seems to be a very quirky plotline, but they couldn't decide on which deep message they wanted to do, so they just threw a bunch at a wall and just to see what would stick. And I think that's why, even just trying to explain it and record this video, I feel like I didn't make sense the entire time, because it's so hard to pin something down, especially while watching the movie. I'm not sure that I would recommend this movie to other people unless you like a movie where nothing makes sense and you want a headache. To end on a positive note, I will say that the animation was really beautiful and they had some very cinematic shots that were pretty reminiscent of a Makoto Shinkai film. And with whatever that was said, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, please leave a like, maybe even subscribe. Leave a comment if you have anything you'd like to say. And, you know, if you did all of that, share with a friend. And if you don't have any friends, sucks to suck.
That's rough, buddy.
Where did I leave off?